Morning children, come back to online classes. We are going to see civics chapter, that is electoral politics. Today's our topic is what makes an election democratic. Elections can be held in many ways. All democratic countries hold elections, but most non-democratic countries also hold some kind of elections. How do we distinguish democratic elections from any other elections? We have discussed these questions briefly in chapter 2. We discussed many examples of countries where elections are held, but they can't really be called democratic elections. Let us recall what we have already learned there and start with a simple list of the minimum conditions of a democratic elections. First point, everyone should be able to choose. This means that everyone should have one vote and every vote should have equal value. Then, second point, there should be something to choose from. Parties and candidates should be free to contest elections and should offer some real choice to the voters. Third, the choice should be offered at regular intervals. Elections must be held regularly after every few years. Next, the candidate preferred by the people should be elected. Then, elections should be conducted in a free and fair manner where people can choose as they really wish. So these might look like very simple and easy conditions, but there are many countries where these are not fulfilled. In this chapter, we will be applying these conditions to the elections held in our own country to see if we can call these democratic. Our next topic is it good to have political competition? Elections are thus all about political competition. This competition takes various forms. The most obvious form is the competition among political parties. So we can see many political parties who contest for elections. At the constituency level, it takes the forms of competition among several candidates. If there is no competition, elections will become pointless. But is it good to have political competition? Clearly, an electoral competition has many demerits. It creates a sense of disunity and factionalism in every locality. You would have heard of people complaining of party politics in your locality. Different political parties and leaders often level allegations against one another. Parties and candidates often use dirty tricks to win elections. Some people say that this pressure to win elections, electoral fights, does not allow sensible long term policies to be formulated. Some good people who may wish to serve the country do not enter this arena. They do not like the idea of being dragged into unhealthy competition. So, children, you have seen that in order to win the elections, parties and candidates they can use dirty tricks also. They can bribe the people, they threaten the people to vote them. So in this way many dirty tricks they can use to win the elections. And also some good people who wish to serve the country, they do not enter this field because they do not like the idea of being dragged into unhealthy competition. Next paragraph. Our constitution makers were aware of these problems, yet they opted for free competition in elections as a way to select our future leaders. They did so because this system works better in the long run. In an ideal world, all political leaders know that what is good for the people and are motivated only by a desire to serve them. Political competition is not necessary in such, but that is not what happens in real life. Political leaders all over the world, like all other professionals, are motivated by a desire to advance their political careers. They want to remain in power or get power and position for themselves. They may wish to serve the people as well, but it is risky to depend entirely on their sense of duty. Besides, even when they wish to serve the people, they may not know what is required to do so, or their ideas may not match what the people really want. How do we deal with this real life situation? One way is to try and improve the knowledge and character of political leaders. The other and more realistic way is to set up a system where political leaders are rewarded for serving the people and punished for not doing so. Who decides who decide this reward or punishment? The simple answer is the people. This is what electoral competition does. Regular electoral competition provide incentives to political parties and leaders. They know that if they raise issues that people want to be raised, their popularity and chances of victory will increase in the next elections. But if they fail to satisfy the voter with their work, they will not be able to win again. So, children, you have seen that how we can deal with the real life situation. We can improve the knowledge and character of political leaders. Then the political leaders can be rewarded for serving the people and punished for not doing so. If they are not doing the work, they can be punished. So who will decide this punishment or reward? We, the people. So this is what electoral competition does. So regular electoral competition provides incentives to political parties and leaders. So they know that if they raise issues that people want to be raised, their popularity and chances of victory will increase in the next elections. But if they fail to satisfy the voters in any matter, then with their work they will be not able to win again. So in order to win again, they have to fulfill all the wishes of the people. So, if a political party is motivated only by desire to be in power, even then it will be forced to serve the people. This is a bit like the way market works. Even if a shopkeeper is interested only in his profit, he is forced to give good service to the customers. If he does not, the customer will go to some other shop. Similarly, political competition may cause divisions and some ugliness, but it finally helps to force political parties and leaders to serve the people. So, children, once again, let me tell you, is it good to have political competition? Some important points about this. It is good to have political competition, but this political competition has many defects, which are as follows: disunity within the political system. The party system has demoralized politics. The parties inculcate bitterness and prejudices into a man's mind. The party system encourages partisan mentality. Next is irresponsible role of the parties. The parties sometimes adopt objectionable methods. Voters are bribed and also threatened. When parties hiring the muscle man to capture the polling booths, the whole purpose of holding the election is defeated. And next is unstable government. Thus, we may admit the criticism advanced against the party competition. Topic is what is our system of elections? The types of election here, the Lok Sabha and the Vidhan Sabhas in the states are normally elected 5 years, which is known as general elections. If a representative from a constitution dies or if the office falls vacant because of reasons like resignation, etc., fresh elections are held in that particular constituency. Such an election is called by-election. Then, if the Lok Sabha or any of the state assembly is dissolved before the expiry of its full term and elections are held to constitute a new house, it is called mid-term elections. Now, elections constituencies. Let us see. You read about the people of the Haryana electing 90 MLAs. You may have wondered how they did that. Did every person in Haryana vote for all the 90 MLAs? Yet, perhaps how perhaps now that this is not the case. In our country, we follow an area-based system of representation. The whole country is divided into different areas for purpose of election. These areas are called electoral constituencies. The voters who live in an area elect one representative for Lok Sabha elections. The country is divided into 543 constituencies. The representative elected from each constituency is called a member of parliament or an MP. So remember children, the country is divided into 5 for election of Lok Sabha. The country is divided into 543 constitutions and the representative will elect from each constituency is called a member of parliament, that is MP. One of a features of democratic election is that every vote should have equal value. That is why our constitution requires that each constituency should have a roughly equal population living within it. Similarly, each state is divided into a specific number of assembly constituencies. In this case, the elected representative is called the member of legislative assembly or an MLA. So children, you have to remember that state is divided into specific number of assembly constituencies, and in this case the representative who is elected is called member of legislative assembly or MLA. Each parliamentary constituency has within it several assembly constituencies. The same principle applies for panchayat also and municipal elections also. Each village or a town is divided into several wards that are like constituencies. So children, here village or a town is divided into several wards that are like constituencies. Each ward elect one member of the village or the urban local body. Sometimes these constituencies are counted as seats. For each constituency represent one seat in the assembly. When we say that the Lokdal won 60 seats in Haryana, it means that candidates of Lokdal won in 60 assembly constituencies in the state, and thus Lokdal had 60 MLAs in the state